as I was reflecting on 2 new recipes I made this weekend, I was reminded that we are created in God's image, and God created everything in the universe pretty much. So if we're made in His likeness, we're supposed to be creative. One of the recipes I made, I was craving a chicken pot pie, but I didn't have the pie crust, so I worked around it. I made a list of what did I want to have in my tummy, and then I broke it down, like how do I cook each part of that. And I made this really cool recipe where it's like chicken pot pie, but with dumplings instead of crust. And then I also tried someone else's recipe that I found on TikTok, and it's this, it's a chicken recipe, and then this soy sauce creamy mix. It has soy sauce, brown sugar, cornstarch, and you just make that with the chicken. We added some broccoli. Nathan loves broccoli. And it was just so yummy, and it was just a good reminder that we are like God, as we can be creative. And then also, by sharing them on social media, it just adds to the body, and I don't know, it just makes it a better life. So I appreciated that one person sharing her recipe, so I shared my recipe. So if you're interested, then I'll post it after this one. I'm Shelly with the God's Goodness Podcast. We may not have met yet. I have a podcast that is made to encourage as well as highlight God's goodness and modern day miracles. And my husband hosts it with me. We have a variety of guests on the podcast, and some share miracles, some share visions, and it's just a wide variety of topics that we talk about, and it's whoever the Holy Spirit leads me to. He's guiding the whole thing. None of it is scripted, except the very first part. The Holy Spirit downloaded that. That's always been the same introduction. And we're starting to do a new series. We're working on that in the background, and it'll come out after the next 4 episodes. So it'll be a minute, but stay tuned for that. And we have just a wide variety of people coming up, and I just can't wait for you to be blessed by their stories and encouraged too. Here comes the video I recorded of the recipe. Back in the day, I didn't like to try new recipes. I was afraid. But now I'm trying a new recipe, and if it goes well, I'll share that with you. Yesterday, I had a craving for chicken pot pie, but I didn't have any pie crust. So I was going to make my own pie crust, but then I'm like, oh, that's a lot of work. I don't feel like doing that. So instead of a pie crust, I used the Bisquick mix to make the dumpling mix. So I made 8 dumplings. Well, here's what I did. I came up with my own recipe, and I wanted to share it with you. And my son says it's his favorite meal now, above chili. He loves my chili, but he says this is even better than that. So listen to this. So you're basically making the creamy sauce for the chicken pot pie, and then so you make that separate. I wrote it down, so I'll just screenshot it. I used rotisserie chicken this time. It was really cheap at our local store. So while you're pulling the chicken off the bones of the rotisserie chicken, you can simmer 3 cups frozen veggies in chicken broth. And you're using that chicken broth, you're going to cook some dumplings in it. So you make some biscuit mix, and those 8 biscuits will turn into 20 1.5-inch balls. And then the dumplings, so you put the dumplings in with the frozen veggies, and then as those are cooking, you'll add the chicken to soak in the broth. Then you can turn off the heat when the dumplings are floating. And then you make the cream sauce as that all boils. So you make the cream sauce by melting 1/3 cup butter on medium heat. If you have onions, you can saute those, and then you saute them until clear. I didn't have any onions, so I just sprinkled in some minced onions, and then I added in 1/3 cup flour with my whisk, and then you slowly add in 1 3/4 cup chicken broth and 2/3 cup milk, and then you simmer that on medium low for 5 to 10 minutes until
And then you scoop the veggies and the chicken and the dumplings from that broth, and then you put that in a baking dish. And then you pour the cream sauce over all of that goodness, stir it, fold it in, and then you serve. And there's no baking involved, and it tastes like chicken pot pie, but it has dumplings, and it's so delicious and so easy. So I hope you get to make it and enjoy.
If you need help finding it, we're anywhere you find a podcast, and that could be Spotify, Pandora, Audible, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, any podcast place, you name it. You can even ask Alexa to help us. You can even ask Alexa to find us for you. So just say, help me find the God's Goodness podcast, and you'll be all set. So tune in and share it with a friend, and be blessed. And I hope you enjoy it.